John the Baptist disarmed the heart to welcome the beloved Son. On the 12th of January 2025 at the Church of St. John the Baptist on the banks of the River Jordan, Brother Ibrahim Faltas, Vicar of the Custody of the Holy Land, presided at Holy Mass on the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord. Simha, the angel who brings hope. A theatrical performance by the young people of the St. James Vicariate was presented in Jerusalem, a sign of hope and unity in the Holy City. Jordan. Pope sends Secretary of State to inaugurate new temple at baptism site. On Friday, the 10th of January, the Catholic Church experienced a historic moment with the inauguration of the Church of the Baptism of Christ, located on the banks of the Jordan River at Maghtas, consecrated by Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Pope Francis's special envoy. Syria, a message of love and hope for Christians. From the 29th of December to the 3rd of January, a delegation of friars of the Custody of the Holy Land from several friaries in Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Jordan and Lebanon visited their brothers in Syria. Statement by the Catholic Ordinaries on the ceasefire in Gaza. The announcement of the Gaza ceasefire, which aims to end hostilities, secure the return of Israeli hostages and the release of Palestinian prisoners, was welcomed. The day began with some difficulty in getting to the place of celebration, but slowly the buses from the parishes of the Holy Land, the guests, the political and ecclesiastical authorities, and the people of God managed to arrive. The Feast of the Baptism of the Lord, celebrated at the River Jordan, began with a procession from the Orthodox convent to the Franciscan property. Brother Ibrahim Faltas, Vicar of the Custody of the Holy Land, presided at Holy Mass. Bishop Emeritus of the Diocese of Chascomús, Argentina, His Excellency Monsignor Carlo Umberto Malta, and the priest of the Sanctuary of the Good Shepherd of Jericho, Brother Maria Hadjiti, concelebrated. Brother Ibrahim marveled at the participation and joy of the people in coming to celebrate in a place rich in history, Franciscan-owned since 1920, when they bought this land. Then a long period of war undermined the land, and then between the wars and the 1956 earthquake, after 54 years in 2020, it was finally possible to return and celebrate Holy Mass there.
Anche questa è una storia della custodia, una storia del posto, una storia.
It is a story of the custody, a story of the place, a story in which we live. Every day there is something. And then here, until 2 years ago, it was not possible to put our feet because it was a minefield. The mines have been removed, and now we can walk from the convent to the Jordan River.
Ci è voluto 54 anni e 3 giorni per togliere queste mine.
It took 54 years and 3 days to remove these mines. Today we prayed to the Lord to remove the mines that are within people, in their hearts, in their minds. This will take who knows how many years, because we need to live in peace and we don't want any more war. We don't want any more violence. We don't want any more revenge. We have all prayed for peace, for an end to war, and for the Lord to remove the landmines within us.
Tutti veramente oggi hanno pregato per la pace, hanno pregato di finire questa guerra, di vivere in pace, che il Signore toglie le mine dentro di loro.
Por lo tanto, como dice la antífona de Laudes del Benedictus,
as the antiphon of the Benedictus says, today the Church has washed her guilt here in the River Jordan. She joins Christ, her bridegroom, as the Magi arrive with gifts at the royal wedding, and the water is turned into wine to gladden the banquet. These are the epiphanies of the Son of God, and the meaning is profound in the gesture Jesus makes in being baptized by John the Baptist. A gesture that he made in this place, as we can see on the other side of the mountains. On the other side of the Jordan River, just opposite, there are caves where people said they were sleeping. But more than anything else, what counts is the act of wanting to be baptized.
Él dormía, que se encuentran aquí al frente. Pero imaginaos el hecho de la el gesto de querer ser bautizado.
Precisely this place, which unites the episodes of the Old and New Testaments, was chosen by John, also called the Baptist, to prepare for the coming of the Lord.
Por lo tanto, no es un accidente que el Señor haya...
It is therefore no accident that the Lord came from Galilee, crossed the river at one point, and then returned here. And I would say that Jesus is not purified because he does not need to be purified, being God. On the contrary, it is the water that is purified. It is the water that is sanctified. It is human reality that is sanctified by his presence. Wherever he is, wherever he walks, everything is sanctified. And this gesture is just like saying, now you can do the same, because these waters will always be blessed. As we have always said, the whole of the Holy Land is a sanctuary with a vault, which is heaven, an open sanctuary. The sacrament of baptism introduces those who receive it into a new life, starting with Christ, to enter vitally into the mystery of his life. Brother Sergio calls it an ontological change, that is, from a pagan nature to a divine life. Little Charbel Joanna was able to experience this grace and was joyfully received by the community after being baptized during the ceremony. After Holy Mass, a procession makes its way to the Jordan River for a small ceremony in front of the friars' chapel. The musical Simha, the angel who brings hope, was presented in Jerusalem by the young people of the St. James Vicariate. It brought together around 40 Hebrew-speaking children and young people. During the preparations, a choir of Arab children from Ramleh also participated. During a day of rehearsals, they sang Silent Night together and participated in an art workshop to create the musical setting. For Sister Muna Tota of the Congregation of St. Joseph of the Apparition, organizing this event was a wonderful experience. It brought together the Christian and Muslim children of Ramleh and the children of the Jewish pastoral care in Jerusalem, who thus shared their love, thirst for hope, and unity. A profound message showing that Jesus came to bring joy and peace to all. You are my Son, the Beloved, and in you I am well pleased. These words of the Gospel deeply touched the heart of Nadim Mouasher. After losing his son Ayman in a tragic accident, he decided to make a decisive contribution to the construction of the new church in Maghtas, the place of Jesus' baptism. 15 years of work, dreams and hopes to see this project realized, which now stands as a sign of rebirth. At the press conference, Cardinal Pizzaballa, Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, accompanied by the new Patriarchal Vicar for Jordan, Monsignor Toual, and the Jordanian Minister of Tourism, Lina Hannab, called on all Christians to visit the holy sites. He urged them not to interrupt the flow of pilgrimages on which the lives of so many locals depend. Jordan is a safe country, continued the Patriarch. It is a shame to pass up the opportunity to come here, to the source of life. The history of this church began in 2009 with the laying of the foundation stone by Pope Benedict XVI, a project supported by numerous benefactors, including the Hungarian state. For the Silver Jubilee of the first pilgrimage to Maghtas, Cardinal Pietro Parolin was the special envoy of Pope Francis. He was the one who consecrated the church, now entrusted to the Fathers of the Incarnate Word. A celebration attended by 6,000 faithful, a tangible sign of a living and vibrant community. We are at the lowest point on earth, the Cardinal highlighted in his homily, but it is precisely here that God has come to meet us. It is no coincidence that the Church shares the same axis with the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. From baptism to resurrection, the entire mystery of salvation unfolds in these places. And it is the site of the baptism of Jesus, identified in the 1990s by Franciscan archaeologist Michele Piccirillo, that carries within itself a stratification of sacred history. Here the chosen people crossed the Jordan to the Promised Land. Here Elijah was taken up into heaven. Here John baptized Jesus. The passage of the people through the Jordan, recalled Parolin, anticipated our passage to eternal life through the waters of baptism. In the rite of consecration, the altar was anointed with a sacred chrism, as were the walls on the four sides of the temple. Water from the river Jordan was poured into the baptismal font and sprinkled over the faithful and the walls of the church. The relics of the holy martyrs of Barbastro, Spain, and Damascus, Syria, as well as those of St. John Paul II, were placed on the altar. At a time of a profound crisis in the Middle East, the Secretary of State made a heartfelt appeal. Violence must not be what determines our future. A call for a ceasefire, the release of hostages, and respect for humanitarian law in Gaza that was echoed by Patriarch Pizzaballa, recalling his last visit to that tormented strip of land. Let us not forget, not even for a moment, those who suffer. The entire Middle East and the whole world are enveloped but illuminated by the mystery of the Son of God, here where heaven and earth touch. From the 29th of December to the 3rd of January, a delegation of friars of the Custody of the Holy Land from several friaries in Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Jordan, and Lebanon visited their brothers in Syria. The delegation visited Franciscan parishes that have been under severe siege for 14 years. A visit that turned into a powerful message of love and hope. Brother Ibrahim Faltas, custodial vicar who led the small delegation, wanted to reaffirm the support of the Catholic Church and the Franciscan order to the Syrian people. For over 8 centuries, this commitment has been reflected in the tireless service to the spiritual, vital, and educational aspects of community life.
احنا من 800 سنة نشتغل في سوريا بنينا مدارس ومستشفيات وملاجئ.
We have been working in Syria for 800 years. We have built schools, hospitals and shelters for the good of the community. During the war, the Franciscan friars were the only ones to remain in their parishes despite the dangers. Over the centuries, some 2,000 friars have sacrificed their lives to protect both people and heritage. In Syria, the friars were kidnapped several times and some suffered martyrdom. Although over time we asked them to leave those places to save themselves, they always chose to face death rather than abandon their people and churches.
من هذا البلد الذي اضطهد وقتل أبناءه وشردت.
From this country whose people have been persecuted and killed, where displaced families cannot be counted, from here I can say that peace has returned. The bells have rung again. You can see the joy and happiness in the people. The people can finally feel the human and spiritual emotion that they had lost during the entire war.
لكي تعيش من جديد هذا البعد الإنساني والروحي يلي كانت فقدته خلال الحرب كلياتها.
The delegation met the brethren who had courageously faced adversity and expressed their deep pride. The custodial vicar then said, "You are the true face of living faith. Your presence here testifies that Christian love is stronger than any challenge. Through you, the message of the Church, which brings the light of Christ into the world, continues to shine even in the darkest circumstances."
من الواجب إنه نذكر باقي الرهبان أبونا لؤي بشارات يلي قدم نفسه.
We must also remember other brothers such as Brother Luai Bisharat, who volunteered to become priest of the Yakubiya parish at a very difficult time, marked by persecution and danger. For me, he was an extraordinary example of a good shepherd, who not only does not abandon his flock, but goes on to meet them, seeking them out and staying with them.
رائع للراعي الصالح، مو بس للراعي اللي ما بيترك رعيته، للراعي اللي بيروح لحتى يبحث عن رعيته ويضل معه.
هون عنا بهالضيعة الثلاثة الخوارنة.
The Franciscan friars remained in the villages, facing beatings, kidnappings, imprisonment and threats. The church in Yakubiya was even burnt down. Just before the liberation, we still suffered much persecution, but the presence of the friars was the cornerstone that allowed the Christians in that village to survive.
كان هو حجر الزاوية لبقاء المسيحيين بهالضياع.
The custody delegation participated in the meeting of representatives of the Christian churches with the new Syrian leader for the transition period, Ahmed al-Sarraj. Brother Ibrahim said, "For centuries, Franciscan friars have built churches, schools and hospitals in Syria, further enriching its millenary heritage. We have been a bridge connecting Syria to the world, bringing the world to Syria and its people. Today we renew this commitment, driven by love for humanity, far from any difference or division."
شفنا إنسان منفتح، شفنا إنسان بيحب المسيحيين، قدر شغل الفرنسيسكان.
We met a person open to dialogue and deeply respectful of Christians. He expressed great appreciation for the work of the Franciscan friars. He knew Monsignor Hanna and Brother Luai well, their commitment, the sacrifices they make, and the essence of the Franciscan message they embody. He spoke with great admiration of His Holiness Pope Francis, his declarations, appeals, and positions, and he expressed a sincere desire to meet him. Leader Ahmed is concretely committed to the return of Christian migrants from Syria to their homes. For example, 300,000 Christians lived in Aleppo before the war, while today only 20,000 remain. We addressed this issue and he said, "I would like all Christians to return here. This is their land and we will guarantee their safety, protection and freedom."
اللي طلعوا من هون يرجعوا، هذه بلادهم، هيكون في أمان، هيكون في حرية، هيكون في كل شيء.
This visit is a living testimony that Christian love and commitment knows no boundaries, showing that the Church is always at the side of those in need, even in the most difficult trials. In the morning of the 16th of January 2025, the Catholic Ordinaries of the Holy Land sent a statement on the ceasefire in Gaza. They welcomed this announcement and expressed their hope that it marks an end to the violence that has caused immeasurable suffering. It is a necessary step to stop the destruction and meet the urgent humanitarian needs of countless families affected by the conflict. The letter also states that they look forward to the return of pilgrimages to the sites of the Holy Land, so that the faithful can pray in safety and regain spiritual joy. At the beginning of the Jubilee year, they see this as a sign of God's faithfulness, inviting everyone to look to the future with unshakable hope. The Ordinaries also appeal to political leaders and the international community, inviting them to develop a clear and just political vision for the post-conflict period. A future built on the dignity, security and freedom of all peoples is a prerequisite for true and lasting peace. They urge all parties to take concrete steps and negotiate future agreements in good faith. Open yourself to a gesture of solidarity and support the mission of the Custody of the Holy Land. The Christian Media Center spreads the good news of Jesus by making known to the world the spirituality of the holy places and the lives of the Christians who live here. Your contribution will help us bring the proclamation of the risen Lord, the most urgent of all, to men and women of every language and nation. To help us concretely, open the QR code. Your choice makes a difference.